Christmas Eve to those who are celebrating that today, or technically tonight. And even tonight, you may be watching this video, and it may be midnight or past midnight, and it can be Christmas time for you. So, Merry Christmas Eve. Did you celebrate that? I need your guys' help for a video idea. I was thinking about either doing a rebuild. You guys can pick a team, so comment down below what team you guys would want me to rebuild. We can do the Suns. I know a lot of people wanting a Suns one, and a lot of Hawks one, Chicago Bulls. Name a team. I will rebuild them down in the comments down below. Maybe the one with the most likes, or the one I see the most of, I'll do it. Or just whatever team I feel like doing, I'll pick. And then for the second gameplay, maybe doing another fantasy draft rebuild. I know you guys like doing the fantasy drafts, the randomness of the fantasy drafts, the me talking about random players type of vibe going on. So if you guys want me to do that, let me know down in the comments. Or maybe you want like a cyberpunk video, another cyberpunk gameplay video. Again, comment down below. Let me know what you guys want for a Christmas Day double upload. Also, thank you so much for the love on the last video. In the last video I uploaded, yes, I'm uploading every day in December. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. We are almost at 5K. Again, growing and growing and growing little by little every day. It's so crazy. It's so much fun. Almost at 5K. Thank you guys so much. But yesterday, I uploaded part 1 of this video. This is a part 2. Part 1 was talking about my favorite players from every team's history, all time. I've done in the past my favorite players of today. Now I'm doing my favorite all-time players from each NBA team. Yesterday we did the East. Today we're doing the West. So with that being said, make sure you like the video if you like the video. And let's get started on the video. Alright. Also, sorry if you can hear the outside world. For some reason it's very loud with the cars driving by. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but hopefully not. But the first team in alphabetical order are the Dallas Mavericks. And for the Dallas Mavericks, there is one obvious answer. It's probably everyone's favorite Dallas Mavericks player. And yes, it would be mine too. Dirk Nowitzki is my favorite Dallas player of all time. Definitely close second would already have to be Luka Doncic, man. That guy is just such a fun-loving guy. You can really tell he loves the game of basketball. He loves learning, and he's also just such a great, seems like a really nice and great guy. I can see him playing in Dallas for his entire career, honestly. He just seems like one of those types of guys. But Dirk, obviously, growing up watching a lot of the mid to late 2000s era basketball, watching Dirk in his prime, like, the dude was an absolute maniac on the offensive end. That guy was just one of the first ever like stretch bigs in the NBA, but to do it at a very consistent rate, hitting threes, mid-range, his fadeaway is just absolutely just impeccable. One of the best moves, honestly, in an NBA arsenal to ever be created. You have Dirk's fade, you have Kareem's skyhook. There's a lot of sort of things and moves like that, and I think Dirk's fade is definitely one of them. And just the guy Dirk was, again, he reminds me a lot of how Luka is, just a very fun-loving guy who just grinds for the game of basketball, which is awesome. His championship with them and against Miami was absolutely inspiring. Like, that team was just such a good, well put together team, surrounded by a Hall of Famer with Dirk Nowitzki. So big ups to Dirk. I think Dirk may be my favorite player in Dallas Mavericks history. Next up, we are on to the Denver Nuggets, and this one might be a sort of like most famous sort of popular player in their franchise history, but growing up as a Portland Trailblazers fan, we would always get these like discounted game tickets every year for my school we would go to, and every year on the discounted day for a game, we would always go up against the Denver Nuggets. On those days, they were discounted tickets. We'd always go because they're discounted, but every time we would play the Denver Nuggets, and the late 2000s, Denver Nuggets teams had the killer prime Carmelo Anthony, the cornrows and all, in the super cool looking Denver Nuggets jerseys with Chauncey Billups, Nene, Carmelo, Allen Iverson, J.R. Smith, those teams, Chris Anderson. Like, that team we'd face all the time, and just watching Carmelo Anthony torch our teams every single time live in person. I definitely hated Melo for a while, but obviously now, knowing, Carmelo and things like that, watching his game a lot and things like that, obviously I never hated him, obviously I'm just saying that, but he's just such a great player, so I would have to say probably Carmelo Anthony on the Denver Nuggets is my favorite Nuggets player in franchise history. I think he's a very good pick. I think Mutombo might be a little bit of an underrated one. I think Mutombo was a very inspirational type of pick because obviously we talked about him, not in my last video, but the video before, the upset they had over the Supersonics as an 8 seed over the 1 seed was super crazy as well. That was so crazy. Those things rarely happen in the NBA, so it was really cool to see that happen with Denver and Dikembe Mutombo obviously being maybe the most talented player on that team. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say Carmelo. That might be a very dumb answer, a very stupid answer, but again, if you probably asked anyone over the age of like 13 or 14, like they grew up also watching Melo playing on Denver before he got traded to the Knicks, obviously. So I think Melo is a nice pick, but maybe too much of an obvious one. Next up are the Golden State Warriors, and no, I'm not picking the obvious answer of Steph Curry for my end. I think he's definitely the most popular player, not only in the NBA, but of their entire franchise's history. That's coming from a team who's had, one of the greats of all time with Will Chamberlain. I still think obviously Steph is the more popular player, but for me, it would have to be his dynamic duo partner and Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson, in my opinion, is my favorite Golden State Warrior player of all time. It's him, and then I'll throw in like Monte Ellis, number 2. I know he came up short in my last video as well, being my Bucks favorite player, but I think Monte obviously deserves to be mentioned when talking about the Golden State Warriors, especially in recent history, because without Monte Ellis, there would be no Steph Curry, and that's a very big thing to talk about when talking about Steph Curry. And then I would say maybe Jason Richardson. I think Jason Richardson on the Golden State Warriors during his slam dunk contest era of his career was super cool to see. He wasn't really that great of like a basketball player, but obviously his highlights are absolutely insane, so you could probably put Jason Richardson up there. And then obviously the man who led the We Believe Golden State Warrior team, and that is Baron Davis. I think is definitely another player you guys need to figure out where to put up there. Maybe even Steven Jackson during his time in Golden State wasn't all that bad, so definitely had some good guys, good names for sure. But me personally, Klay Thompson, I think is I just love the way he plays the game, the way he plays on the offensive end, how fast he can spark his offense. Dude can score. Well, we obviously seen he can score in bunches in the matter of minutes. He's one of the most players in the NBA who have like the hottest hands in the NBA. Once he gets going, it is very hard to stop him. And then not only that, on the defensive end, the man is absolutely insane. He is a killer on defense. He will lock down the opposing team's best player, and that's super crazy to come from. He's my favorite player in the Golden State Warriors history. Next up are the Houston Rockets. And with the Houston Rockets, they obviously have an amazing center that has played their greatest, I would say the most skilled big man, most skilled center of all time, in Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know why I said greatest, definitely the most skilled. And he's probably the best player in their franchise history, the greatest player in their franchise history. But I am going to have to say a guy who just got very, very, very much cut short by injury, and that's going to have to be Tracy McGrady. Now I know I probably should have mentioned Tracy McGrady in my Orlando Magic Eastern Conference video yesterday, but I wanted to save him for this one because I just feel like he was still a very underrated player when he was in Houston, but again, cut off a lot by injury. You can say the same thing with Yao Ming, who might be a lot of other people's favorite player in that sort of franchise's history. I think Tracy McGrady was just, again, one of the players who were just super duper supernova hot hand. When he got going, it is very hard for him to be stopped. I just wish he could have just had a more healthy career, and he could have ended up being an all-time like great player. Like the dude could easily average 30, 33, 35 points per game if he really wanted to. But then also being just a very good wing defender, wing player, could easily play with any of the other greats that were playing during that time period. He just needed health, and it just didn't came into fruition. So, which really sucked. But he's still, I think, my favorite player in that franchise's history, just because the way he played. A highlight type player, very cool to watch on offense, very good all-around type player. So I'm gonna say Tracy McGrady. Now on to the next team, and it is the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers. And this was kind of hard because I didn't really grow up watching a lot of Clipper games. They were never really on TV a lot, so that sort of 2000s, 90s Clipper teams I am not very familiar with whatsoever. I know they obviously had like Chris Kaman, Elton Brand, Eric Gordon for a little bit. They were like he was like their next like upcoming star, and then he got traded to New Orleans. I'm trying to think. Man, I think I'm gonna have to go with like another basic pick. I know, I'm very sorry. I think I'm gonna have to go with another basic pick and pick Blake Griffin, who, again, if you ask anyone over a certain age, is also probably their favorite player in that franchise's history. You could say him, or definitely Chris Paul, but obviously the way Blake Griffin played the game back in the day was just unseen by anyone else. He's up there with like the greatest dunkers of all time, like Sean Kemp, and even players not even in the same position as him, like Michael Jordan, Vince Carter. Like he's just in the elite category of dunkers in the NBA. Not only because of what he did in the slam dunk contest, but his in-game dunks are probably better. At least in my opinion, they're better than his performance dunks that he did for the slam dunk contest. So the way he played, how he played, the swagger he brought, he was even a very good player back in the day, averaging between 20 and 25 points per game during his highs, playing in a very exciting sort of brand of basketball with the sort of lob city Clippers with him, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Jamal Crawford, JJ Redick, the coach of Doc Rivers. That team was very good. Obviously probably should have won more than they did. Obviously injuries came into factor a lot, which was really sucky. We're gonna talk about injuries a lot. And up next, you can probably guess who are the next team. And yes, they are the LA Lakers. And honestly, for the LA Lakers, you can probably already guess. There are a plethora of names you can throw out there. Obviously, starting out sooner rather than later with LeBron and Anthony Davis. You could throw it even way further back with Jerry West, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, even, a little bit sooner with Pau Gasol. But again, you can probably ask anyone, and they'll probably come down with the names of Magic Johnson or Kobe Bryant. I'm gonna go with Kobe Bryant. I never really went into a lot of detail when talking about what happened to Kobe, and that's mostly just because it is probably a very touchy subject with a lot of people. Because a lot of people are probably Laker fans, basketball fans, fans of Kobe, and it's probably kind of like a triggering thing that people don't really want to think or talk about. But it's obviously been almost a year since that happened, so Kobe was my favorite player at a certain point in time. The Lakers were my favorite team at one point in time. Being a guy from Southern California, being born there, I was a Laker fan even before I was a Portland Trailblazer fan. So, Kobe was my first favorite player. The Lakers were my first favorite team. I literally have the 2010 Magic versus Lakers finals shirt. I have that shirt that Kobe was wearing during that time when he won his fourth championship. So that really sucked. And Kobe was, again, the first player that I really watched, really watched, and got really involved in when first getting really introduced into basketball in sort of like the later 2000s. Yeah, I think definitely Kobe is definitely my favorite player for the Lakers of all time. I think two, obviously, has Grizzlies. But my favorite player in Memphis Grizzlies history has to be hands down Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay was just a absolute bucket. That man, not only in 2K, who is one of the best 2K players of all time, in real life was just an absolute maniac when it came to scoring the ball. Very much so like a two-way player. Kind of reminded me a lot of like an off-brand of Paul George, like a very decent two-way player, but not that sort of level of two-way player where he can be like an MVP, all-star type player, but a very good player who can very much contribute on a team, who is still even continuously being one of the sort of most sought-out players in the NBA. But yeah, that whole era of that early 2010s, late 2000s Memphis Grizzlies basketball team was a lot of fun to watch with them and Marcus Gasol. Who was on that team? It was Mike Conley, Tony Allen, Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph. Yeah, even Zach Randolph, man, he might even be my favorite player during that time period. But I'm gonna go with Rudy Gay. Very fun to watch. Very exciting brand of basketball on that team. Well, he was very exciting. I don't think the way the team played was very exciting. I talked about this last time in one of my other videos, talking about the Memphis Grizzlies versus San Antonio Spurs matchups they used to have back in the day. That was a really cool rivalry to watch, but man, those were some very boring games. But he was definitely more of a bright side of that team, being a very flashy, high-flying, scoring type player. That was a lot of fun to watch. Now we're on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and for the Minnesota Timberwolves, there is a godly type player that played for that team back in the day during his MVP campaign season where he won the MVP, and that is Kevin Garnett. He was probably, again, if you're a fan of the Minnesota Timberwolves, probably your favorite player in their franchise's history. But in my opinion, my favorite player of all time for that team is gonna have to be, again, a player from when I was really watching basketball. I don't know why I said that. That is Kevin Love. Kevin Love is my favorite player in that franchise's history. Again, not only because he was on that team when I was, watching a lot of basketball, but also the way he played the game. The dude was the best power forward in the NBA at one point in time. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, him and Blake, LaMarcus Aldridge, Tim Duncan during that time period Tim Duncan was sort of declining a little bit, or at least plateauing during that time period. But bro, no one could rebound and score the ball like Kevin Love could at that point in time. The dude could literally do a 20 and 20 game on any given night. He ended up winning a championship. With the greatest comeback in NBA history, one of the greatest sports teams stories of all time, with that 3-1 deficit on the Golden State Warriors. So you got your highs, you got your lows, but I think Minnesota Timberwolves, Kevin Love is my favorite player in that team's history. Again, Kevin Garnett, man, that's a very hard one to pass up, and KG's obviously the greatest player that's ever played for the Timberwolves, but my favorite player to watch. And on to the New Orleans Pelicans slash, and this is a hint, slash the New Orleans Hornets. Yes, I know a lot of people have forgotten about the New Orleans Hornets, but my favorite player in this franchise history is Chris Paul. Yes, prime Chris Paul for the Hornets, in my opinion, was my favorite player in that franchise's history. I know. Anthony Davis may be the sort of most talented. The dude is a 6'10", 6'11" player who can play like a guard, but dude, Chris Paul in his heyday is just on another level of like point guard. He was a point god, in my opinion. The dude could drop 25 points, like 15 assists, get 3 steals, and be the highest IQ player on the court. He willed that team to the playoffs, I think, definitely at least once. I don't remember if he did again, but I remember him going up against Kobe Bryant in the playoffs one time. Yeah, that man, it was just an absolute maestro on that team. He still is, even in today's NBA. But definitely needed a lot more help than what he got, and that's why he left, and that's why Anthony Davis left. And hey, hopefully, it's not why, Zion leaves now, him being sort of their next cornerstone, which New Orleans, like, big ups to you guys. You guys are just getting loaded with great players, with Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, now with Zion. Like, y'all better not mess this one up because you had 3 tries. Okay, we're now on to the OKC Thunder, which, I mean, I know we just talked about the Pelicans slash the Hornets, but I think for this one I'm going to do 2 separate ones because both these franchises are, I think, very different in my opinion. But the OKC Thunder and the Seattle Supersonics. So, I mean, if I had to pick between the two, I'm going to say Gary Payton is my favorite player of that franchise's history, even both Thunder and Supersonics. I just love Gary Payton's game. I love his demeanor, his defensive ability, his offensive ability, the way he helped carry that franchise to an NBA Finals in Seattle, which totally blows my mind, which a team which only really had, like, him, Sean Kemp, Deflin Shrimp, I think is how you pronounce his name. Other than that, I think Nate McMillan was on that team, coached by George Karl. That team was good, but that team won like 60 plus games, almost multiple years, and he was sort of the main motor of that team. And again, just the way he never backed down for anyone. If we're talking Thunder, I mean, I guess I gotta go Kevin Durant. Like, Kevin Durant's obviously an amazing player. He's probably everyone's favorite player in that franchise history, unless you're like a real diehard OKC Thunder fan. And maybe it's Russell Westbrook because of what, KD did going to the team that beat you guys, which is pretty messed up in my opinion. But hey, to each their own. And I just also loved KD's game during that time period. So again, KD, Russell Westbrook, definitely 1 and 2. But Kevin Durant and Gary Payton are my 2 favorite players of that franchise's history, if that makes any sense. We are now on to the Phoenix Suns, and for the Phoenix Suns, there are a lot of actually very talented players who have played throughout the Phoenix Suns history. Right now, you guys got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, which obviously Devin Booker's probably more of the A than the B in that sort of equation, but Devin Booker, man, he's definitely my favorite player right now to watch. He might even be my favorite player of all time. That's very close, but I'm going to throw it way back. I got to give it up to the very underrated guy who gets roasted all the time on TNT, and I'm going to go with Sir Charles Barkley. If you don't know, and you've just seen Charles Barkley on TNT a lot, I know there's some like younger people who watch my videos, or maybe people who are just getting into the NBA. Please, I beg, please go watch some Charles Barkley highlights from him in Phoenix. The man was an MVP. The man was a killer. The man was, again, an undersized small forward, power forward / small forward. The guy was just a very smart, if you can believe it, NBA player. The way he calculated rebounding, scoring the ball, positioning, he was very good and very talented during his time in Phoenix. Obviously, putting that team in the NBA Finals against, again, Michael Jordan coming up short, but that team with him and Kevin Johnson, that team was actually very, very deep and talented. So, man, it just sucks that obviously he never got a ring going up against the juggernauts of the 90s, and then again, going up against Michael Jordan, never really got his own. So, very tough to see, but definitely, Charles Barkley is my favorite player in that franchise's history. Then you can go down the list of Nash, Stoudemire, Devin Booker, like I just said. They've always had some very great players during their time, but in my opinion, I'm gonna have to say Charles Barkley, not only because of the player Charles Barkley was, being such a dominant player during his time period and never really winning, but the person he is, also just being such a funny character on TV now, and even back then he was also a very funny guy. So now we are on to kind of a juicy topic, and that is the Portland Trailblazers, which, if you could probably tell by the banner on my left, I'm a pretty big Portland Trailblazer fan, obviously being in the area in Portland, being in Portland. They are my favorite team, and I've been watching them pretty much every time they're on since, the early 2000s, honestly. So, Portland has always just sort of been around, and I could go with a very typical, Portland Trailblazer fan, I was a fan when Brandon Roy this and Brandon Roy that. I think Brandon Roy is an amazing player. Brandon Roy is one of my favorite players of all time. No one has ever, in my opinion, brought so much shine and love to Portland than what Damian Lillard has done. Not everything aside from just the basketball standpoint of Damian Lillard, but just what he's done for the city of Portland and the consistency in just makes him my favorite player, one of my favorite players on the franchise history, but my favorite player in franchise history and my favorite player of all time. So Damian Lillard gets all the awards for me on that. But yeah, Damian is just an absolute killer on the court. This might butt some heads with some people, but in my opinion, he could be named like the Allen Iverson of this sort of generation, like being always so close but yet so far. Obviously not getting to the NBA Finals like Allen Iverson did, but I'm going to go with Damian. I think Brent Roy's a very good one as well. The Clyde, for sure. But yeah, Damian, I think is pretty obvious. Next up are the Sacramento Kings. And for the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to have to go with my boy, Chris Webber. I think Chris Webber is a very underrated player of all time. Obviously, again, coming into the NBA in a league where the big men rule the world, and dude had a battle, teams with Shaq and Kobe and Tim Duncan and the Spurs dynasty, and just always just getting crushed by the stacked West. I'm very surprised they even got to where they were, being in a team in Sacramento. Like, who would have thought that? But him and Vlade and Mike Bibby and just Williams, and Peja, they were a very good team. But man, just always so close and just getting cut short. So I definitely have a place in my heart for Chris Webber and that Sacramento team, because they were such a good inspiration, just a fun team to watch, but just couldn't get over the hump of just pure greatness. Obviously against Kobe and Shaq were just another level of dynamic duo. So I think Chris Webber is my favorite player in that franchise's history. I'm trying to think who else I could really put up there. I think again, Jason Williams, for the way he played, very flashy, very awesome passer. Again, if you don't know, now you know. Look up Jason Williams. Look up his sort of highlights, or you can even look up white chocolate. You'll probably get the same sort of results. So I think Jason Williams is definitely maybe 1B in that conversation. But then there's also like De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA today. But Chris Webber, favorite player in that franchise history. And then with the Spurs up next, I'm gonna make this one kind of quick. Tim Duncan. I think even Tim Duncan was just recently trending on Twitter for the sort of drag that he had of people saying that, he wasn't really that great, and is he even top 10 all time, this, that, and the other. I'm going to give it to you guys straight. For a very long time, I had Tim Duncan in my top 5 all time. Like, Tim Duncan, in my opinion, is a top 5 talent all time. Like, not only is the dude the greatest power forward of all time, the greatest player at his position, but 5-time champion, multiple-time MVP winner, multiple-time All-NBA first team, multiple-time All-NBA defensive team, multiple-time NBA Finals MVP, went up against one of the greatest teams of all time, Miami's LeBron and D-Wade, big three. Like, he defeated that team. So, also coming out in, again, a very dominant Western Conference with Kobe, Shaq, the LA Lakers, that whole sort of early 2000s basketball team, and they were the team to beat. They were the best team, and it was a team in San Antonio, Texas. Like, that's so weird to think about, that small market team creating such a buzz and dynasty. Big ups to him. He definitely deserves it. Tim Duncan, my favorite player in that franchise's history. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Utah Jazz. And for the Utah Jazz, it's actually kind of hard to think about. It's definitely between two players that I sort of, again, grew up watching, playing. Gordon Hayward, who is a very fun forward to watch play, very crafty, playmaking type of forward, two-way player. But I think I'm going to have to go with the point guard, who is always in the conversation, which is wild to think about nowadays, as one of the best point guards in the NBA, and that is Deron Williams. I think Deron Williams might be my favorite player in that franchise history, not only because, again, grew up watching him play, but the way he played the game of basketball was so, again, crafty, skillful, very, very, very good with his handles. It seemed very easy for him to get into the lane. A lot of crazy layups, very good shot maker, shot creator. The dude, again, at one point in time, was arguably one of the best point guards in the NBA. Very good playmaker for his team, always giving it up to Carlos Boozer and that sort of squad. I think AK-47, Andre Karolinko also played for that team, so that team at one point in time was very good, like him, and then like Rajah Bell, that sort of squad guys so much for